I was a father early, and I didn't necessarily know what it meant to be a father. I just knew I wanted better for my kids than I had. So I knew I had to provide for them. I knew I had to provide whatever it is that they needed. And then when I received it, when I got a father figure in my life who taught me what it was to be a man, who actually walked with me through this thing and just not just telling me a bunch of stuff, then I'm like, oh, it ain't just me telling her what to do. It ain't just me barking orders. That's not me, because that's what I thought. Do what I said because I'm the man. Do what it was the iron fist rule. And early on, that's what it was. I did that iron fist thing. Do as I say, not as I do. And the military teaches you other things about being a man and that role, but you learn like, oh, it's a bunch of these men. Oh, sometimes you got women in charge. Oh, so that's not a role simply for us men. But I think as I learned what the scripture says about being a man, then I could sit back and say, okay, it's not about me having the iron fist. It's about me helping the people under me or in my vicinity to grow.
I like that. And before I get started, Chris, welcome to today's conversation, brother. As always, good to see you.
Greetings, fellas. What's going on?
What's going
Another
on?
beautiful day, man. Another beautiful day. I want you to take time to digest this. I'm not going to drop this in your lap just yet. Um, I know that you're not a father, but if as you're digesting this, just kind of imagine it from your perspective of the ever changing role of what fatherhood is from your perspective. Um, for me, I like what you said, Roland, because I had no idea what fatherhood was. It was just something that I just, didn't plan it out. It just, stumbled upon it. And then by that time, it was just something that I had to do. And so I looked at it more so as a responsibility during that time as opposed as an honor. And so I wanted to make sure that I did my role, did my job when it came down to fatherhood. So I did the things that I thought I knew I was supposed to do when it came down to being a father. I made sure that the lights were on. I made sure that the food was in the house. I made sure that those things happened. But I will also say that I was lacking in a number of different things. I was lacking in the emotional support. I was lacking in having some of those conversations early that children need to have, especially coming from their father. And then as I got older, those things started to come full circle, not because somebody showed me, but because I went on a journey to learn it for myself. And even in the midst of going on that journey, I'm not going to say that that journey in real time, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, this is how I'm going to do it. No, it was like, okay, still struggling with the idea of what fatherhood, what manhood looked like, and then trying to come to grips with what this new information is that I'm learning. And then when you start changing things, it just felt like I was, running up against a brick wall because it was different. I wish, um, given your example, I wish I had somebody who actually showed me what that looked like, that would sit me down and talk with me about certain things, but I did not have that. And so, what I would tell you is that for me, it changed drastically. And I like the thing that you said a while back. You said, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said, I am a much better grandfather than I am a father. Okay, yeah. So that would be me, definitely me, because now it's like my grandson, he's 5 years old. Well, he'll be 5 years old in January, but it's like in my mind, I'm like, yo, and me and his dad, like, yo, we need to do this. Yo, we need to do that. Like, how can I help do this? Like, what are we doing here? And so the struggle for me is not to be overbearing, but let him learn the joys of fatherhood as well, but just be that emotional support and be that mentor that he actually needs. So that when he asks me certain questions, I am ready to give a response based upon what he's experiencing, but slow to give a response because I want to make sure that he articulate how he's experiencing it. Chris, the floor is yours, sir. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ro. You had something else?
No, I was just gonna say, and I agree with you there. And it helps because we bumped our heads where they're going. So now we don't want them to. It's like if I've been through the pitfalls, why I'm gonna allow you to fall in them without warning you first? I'm gonna warn you. I'm gonna tell you what's out there, and if you do it, you have knowledge of it. So there's no crying about it. Now we just got to get past
Yeah. Chris, what you got, brother?
I don't know. I don't. I'm not a father. I My biological father really didn't want anything to do with me, and the dude my mom married didn't teach me a damn thing.
Yeah.
So I do not know. If I'm speaking in general, just based off of the conversations that I have, this is right up my alley because this is what my YouTube channel is about.
Yeah.
Like, I talk to dads and I talk to husbands. Based out of all of the conversations that I have had, they are either fighting tooth and nail to be a dad, or they're trying to be the dad that they never saw. You understand what I'm saying? They're trying to be something that they've never ever seen before. And like Roland said, it is on the fly. Um, I am going to say that even though the role of father and the role of men is starting to, they're attempting to diminish it. I Like I said, man, I don't know anymore. Like, I truly don't. I
No,
don't
that's
know anymore.
no, that's fine. That's fine. And I think it's important, because you got Mr. Dad over there, um, and well, he and I both are dads, and obviously our experiences are different. And so I think within the space of collective experiences, we can learn from one another. And I think the collective experiences pooled together to where we share what we know, what we've been through, some of the harder, like you said, one of the things that we look to do as fathers, as senior fathers, that's what I call them, not a grandfather. I'm a senior father. So as senior fathers, right? what we look to do. Hey man, don't judge me. I got my own name. And I'm
You know
I'm
what?
saying
You
that
get that
jokingly.
today. You get that today.
I'm saying
I
that
give it to
jokingly
you.
because my son told me yesterday. He said, Dad, I don't. He said, you're not old enough to be a granddad. We got to come up with a new name. So senior father is my name, just so you guys know. So um, I think in the space of seniority, right, um, where the experience lies, and it doesn't mean that the experience is great experience, it's just hopefully that it's lessons learned from the experience, right? And so we share the lessons learned, not necessarily the details about the experience. We only share the details about the experience when we're trying to help them to understand that we've been through the exact same thing that they have been. So thank you. Go ahead.
I will say this though. Just talking to the men that I talk to on my channel and off the channel, I do, if we're speaking fathers, there's like a, from what they have described, there's like a nature level sense of responsibility that they get. You understand what I'm saying? It's like nature. They have to take care of this. You understand what I'm saying? And then they put themselves in a position to take care of it, despite what the narrative is. The men, they once they have somebody under their covering, it's like, I gotta take care of this, because if I don't take care of this, everybody fails. You understand what I'm saying? So I guess when it comes to that, and also having some sort of responsibility under you, whether it's a wife or a child or just somebody else, or even yourself in your own care, there's like a sense of responsibility that we feel. And if we're not fulfilling it, they feel like they're not doing anything. I will say that. You're muted, sir.
My bad, man. Players mess up. No, I'm joking. Hey, so listen, as we get ready to tap in this, I got to get my disclaimer right because I think it's important to say this at this point. Like you're looking at a panel of individuals that I consider to be subject matter experts of their own perspective. I think that's important to understand because you're going to hear different experiences, and that's okay. Nobody's experience is wrong, right? Ideally, like I said, what we desire to do is share the lessons that we learned through those experiences. And so that being said, the first question I kind of want to, well, the next question really, that I kind of want to go after, and it falls under what I tend to call monitors of disciplined behavior, right? That's kind of like how I view fathers, right? Monitors of disciplined behavior. So first and foremost, the first question I kind of want to drop on you guys is how do or did you strike a balance between setting boundaries, right? And we talked about setting boundaries for like the longest here. How do or did you strike a balance between setting boundaries and nurturing independence while fulfilling your role as a monitor of disciplined behavior?
I think when you like growing up, I was a father with teenagers in the house early. I was a grandfather, like a senior father at 34 years old. I'm 34. I'm barely should be a daddy. But because I had kids early and then I had my grandbaby. But when it came to discipline, I always was the same way. I was like, if you bump your head, I'm gonna make sure you feel it. You feel it. You did it. You feel it. You have to learn to navigate through your own problems. I'm not gonna help you escape from things simply because you do dumb stuff, knowing that I've given you the information. I've given you what could happen, what did, and you took route to the left when you had choices, and I let them know that choices have consequences. Like I think I told the story before when my daughter, it was a Friday, she decided to do what I told her not to do, and she ended up going to jail. Her and her friend, and I'm like, "How you go to jail for shoplifting and you got money in your pocket? I gave you money, but she went to jail. Oh, well, come get me. Come get you. I told you when you left here I wasn't coming to get you. So where she would stay where you at." Because I'm looking at it like if you constantly remove them from the pains, they won't understand how it feels. That's why some things, as a parent, you got to allow them to experience. You can't just pick them up because they fall. Let them see what it feels like, then dust them off and say, "Hey, it don't feel good. You don't like that? Don't do it again." And but teaching that consequences come with every choice is how I deal with things.
Mm. I, I'll go and whatever comes to mind, bro. Just add
Like
to it.
what am I supposed to say? Like, I don't have any children. Or okay, okay. Before we
Uh,
proceed any further, can I ask a question, please?
there you go.
Would you like for me to speak from my own personal experience, or would you like for me to speak from the information that I have gathered from the men that I have talked to on my platform?
Yes,
Because they're two totally different things.
yes.
I hate it when you do that. Okay, let me gather my thoughts. You go ahead.
All right, very well. I think this is one of those things that I kind of I struggle with trying to find a balance. First and foremost, understanding that we had our experiences were different. Um, and so when it came down to just understanding what setting boundaries were all about, I kind of got the idea, just looking at how I was raised, right? My mother was very disciplined. She had discipline in the house. She believed in discipline. So for me, that kind of carried over. And plus it kind of helped that, we was in the army at that point in time, right? And so we were disciplined people at that particular point in time. But we had to be careful. I had to be careful that discipline did not look like sojourning, right? And so for me, I think that's where the ebbs and flow for me kind of happened. Sometimes I found that I was kind of sojourning my children, and I had to kind of pull that back and reel that back in and said, okay, that needs to look different. And so the like I would kind of call it like a very limited level of compassion, right? This is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you did. These are the consequences. It was more so like that. And then as I got older, it changed. So now in my older years, not now, but then later on, that's when I got to the point of like getting to the point of instead of saying this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you did, this is the consequences. I got to the point of asking questions. So when you did this, what outcome were you thinking? Like what were you expecting to happen? Roland just kind of gave an example of what happened with his daughter. Like during that time frame, if I'm thinking it's right around the same time, I probably would have acted like, so what were you thinking? What outcome were you looking for? If something for whatever reason I elected not to come and get you, how would you have gotten out? How would you have gotten home? Whatever that looks like. So now I got to the point to where I got them thinking about their behavior. And it really seemed like that was worse than the punishment. Right? It seemed like they just want to be punished instead of thinking about what they actually did. And so, in that scope of making them think about their behavior, what they were thinking at a point in time when they did what they did, and the certain outcome that they achieved, it was almost as like it was painful for them to do so. However, it was a lesson that they learned in real time. So what happened is they ended up disciplining themselves moving forward in the future simply because they had to consider, think about what you're doing before you do it, and then the consequences that could come, based upon a bad decision, so forth and so on.
How do you set boundaries between what was the question again? I want to get it right. Setting boundaries and nurturing discipline when fulfilling your role as a monitor of disciplined behavior. Listen. I'm gonna start it all the way from bottom level baseline. And this is based off of the conversations that I've had with parents and with these kids too. If I were a father, I would make absolutely sure that my kid could trust me with anything, because a lot of these youngsters don't trust their parents and they don't trust the OGs out, the quote unquote OGs out here. Because one, a good majority of them ain't doing nothing but flapping their gums. And two, they're afraid that if they say something, it's going to be viewed as disrespectful, because for some strange reason, these parents out here can't determine the difference between somebody talking about a behavior and somebody talking about them as a person. It's like the behavior is so intertwined with who they are that they feel like just because I'm talking about the behavior and I'm saying the behavior is trash, I'm saying you're a bad person too. And that's not the case. It's really not. I'm just talking about this thing that you're doing. That doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes the thing that you're doing bad for me, and it's not conducive to my growth. But if I can't come to you and talk to you about it without you getting offended, I'm gonna just shut up. You understand
Mm.
what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
would make it a point for my kid to trust me, because I don't trust none of my OGs. I take that back. I trust two of them. And that's because they've shown me their work. The rest of them are just flapping their gums. And the rest of them, I made the mistake of calling OG. That's how
Yeah.
these youngsters is feeling.
Mm.
So I guess that's where I would start. Hey, son. Hey, daughter. You can come to me with anything. I may flip out. I may bug out. I may snatch you up. But I would rather you come to me because I love you than go to somebody else. So that's where I would start.
So let me ask this, because I think this is the perfect place to do it. How would you, as a parent, build trust? And that's not just for you; that's for Roland and myself as well. How would you, as a parent, build trust?
It's a reinforcement thing, and it's a reinforcement thing, and it's a consistency thing. If the one time you say I can trust you and you do something besides what we agreed upon, that's when I lose trust for you. Stick to what you said. Stick to the fact that I know that since you brought me into this world, you actually think something of me, and you love me enough to make sure that I don't go through none of the nonsense. But you also understand that your previous version of parenting didn't allow you to speak, which is why it's grand theft auto outside, because these kids don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't have nobody to talk to, and they don't trust nobody that's older than them, because none of them they not doing nothing either. And if they are doing something, it's something that's gonna get them. That's a whole nother tangent. I'm just saying, man, if from what I've been told and from what I wish I had, man, if these kids could actually trust their parents to actually talk to them and be open-minded and not be so authoritative and say because I said so all the damn time, it wouldn't be like this out here. And these kids would be more open to talking to their parents than they are talking to somebody outside the home. And
Yeah.
don't and quit getting attitudes with these people outside the home that they coming to talk to because they can't talk to you. That's goofy too. I'm stuck in the middle of that right now with two people that I consider friends, and I don't know what to do. I have information that I know I need to share as a man at a gut level, but I don't want to violate the trust of the situation, and I don't want to bring the fact that I said something to the situation to make the situation worse. Quick, man. Listen, man. These kids need somebody they can trust, and these kids need somebody that they can talk to. Get out your ego, man. You ain't always right just because they came out of your loins. Cut that out. For real.
What you got, G-Paul?
I think when it comes to the trust part, I like what Chris said. I think the trust part comes from doing what you say and saying what you do, and it all being the same. That's why I hate all that time out stuff. I hate counting. I hate you start at a lower level, and then when they know, if I say I'm gonna dig into you from doing this, I'm not giving you 7 chances. Do it. Okay. Do it again. I got to dig into you. If I don't, I just lied to you. And if I prove that I'm lying to you on that, then I can lie about everything else. But when I say, hey, I got your back and I'm here to listen without judgment, that's exactly what that means. So I don't care if you come telling me that you are doing X, Y, Z. If I'm there to listen, now I listen. And then I go into parent mode. Parent mode don't mean I degrade you, I down any of your decisions. It means that I take your decisions and now let's umpire this thing. Let's unpack it and let's talk about it. Because when they feel they can talk, when they feel they can unload, then it's easier for them to tell you. It's some things that having daughters, when they come and tell you stuff, you like as a father, because I set that up, I wasn't ready for them to come and tell me some things. I'm like, oh my goodness. I gotta sit up there and I gotta take that in before I come with a response, because she thought enough of me to tell me these things. So if I just come at her out of dad mode, because all dads say, hey, my daughter ain't go this and my daughter ain't go that. Here she is. So you can't just you can say that out of your bravado, but when you allow them to know that their voice matters and you aren't just there to ram some advice down their throat, I think it matters in building a uh, a friendship base as well as interlock with that parent uh, base.
It's more than that. It's more than the kid doing something. It's more than that, man. And here's why I'm gonna say that, man. It's Roland, you make great points. But these kids want to be able to tell their parents when they feel like they're being mistreated. These kids want to be able to tell their parents, hey, man, this type of discipline, this don't work for me, man. This doesn't feel good. These kids need to be able to go to their parents and say, hey, man, look, I'm a dude. And I'm starting to see that I need to get my ass whooped a little bit. So step out of the way. These kids need to be able to say, hey, man, why ain't you and mom? Why ain't you and dad together? What happened? These kids need to be able to talk freely like that. That's what I mean by trust. I don't mean all of that other stuff, Roland, you're talking about. That's true. But a lot of these kids don't know how to actually go to their parents and say, hey, man, I don't like the way you treating me, man. This ain't working.
Right. And I
I
get that.
don't.
And that's why I said when you let them feel that their voice matters. Because when you and I'm talking about them come and tell you whatever. Because when my daughters come and tell me stuff that as a father, you don't want to hear about your daughter. As a father, you don't want to hear about your son coming telling you some things. But when you allow them to have their voice and they know that their voice matters, whatever they say, their concerns are now your concerns. That's the same thing as what you're saying.
But see, it's I get what you're saying, because as a parent to child, their concerns are going to be your concerns. You're the parent. That's just how it goes. Because I understand from
Not
the
really.
men, but wait, but from the men that I talk to and the women that I talk to, there's always that like connection. You understand what I'm saying, between child and parent when until they reach a certain age. But what I'm saying is, it's not about you making their problems your problems. It's about you working their problems out with them, so that way it feels like it's their idea and not just dad or mom lecturing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's really what these kids want. I'm just being real about it. Like, these kids want to be able to freely talk to their parents about what they want to do and talk about some of the behaviors that's not working and not feel like they being disrespectful to their mama or being disrespectful
Right.
to their dad. That's really what they want.
And I'm hearing you and I'm thinking, maybe I'm not saying it, but I'm hearing the same thing. You saying it your way, And I'm saying in mine because I
I mean,
said
we are
that
saying the same thing,
because I want them to come so we can unpack it. So
right?
when you bring some, it's not my ideas I'm throwing at you, but let's unpack this thing. I'll give you some, you give me some. So now we coming up with a plan on how we gonna deal with this, not
Right.
just you by yourself.
That's why I
Right.
said I agreed with you, because
Mm.
that's a huge component of it too, being able to actually sit down with your kids and work stuff out. But there's another side of that where the kids need to feel comfortable enough to tell you they need something to be worked out and not get ridiculed for it or get looked at as being disrespectful. So it's kind of two sides of the same coin. You understand what I'm saying? But the goal is just to make sure that these kids can actually communicate freely without it being viewed as disrespect. That's really it.
I think this, and I'm hearing what both of you are saying, and I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I agree with everything that you guys are saying, but I also think that because I'm hearing kind of like a mix of, my child got to be able to view me as a friend, and I think that's my child has to view me as friendly, right? I need to be friendly, not a friend, because sometimes I think it can be misconstrued because I know a lot of times, and I'm not saying that you guys said this, but I know a lot of times, and I've heard that you know my child got to be able to do this, my child got to be able to do that, my child got to be able to do this, my child got to be that. No, you got to be able to set the conditions for your child to understand that they can come to me freely, not view me as a friend, but there are times when I am friendly. That does not mean you're going to get friendly all the time. And
Right.
so the way we get to that point is it starts literally from day one. I am growing and developing you. And I think a lot of times what we do not do is we have that in our mind from like day one. And so a lot of times we're very slow to discipline, right? Kind of like what we're talking about. We're slow to discipline because I don't want my child being mad at me. I don't want my child to dislike me or anything of that nature. And then what ends up happening is that the child gets of certain age and that child does not have that degree of respect for the parent. Now, I know that is such a touchy scenario when we start using the term respect. However, this is the part what I would add as well. In the growth, development, and nurturing phase of early development childhood, right? My child understands that when they sit down with me, they have an expectation that I am going to give them not just my undivided attention, not allowing them just to speak freely, but when I open my mouth and respond to them, they know that we're going to have an exchange. And by the end of that conversation, they're going to walk away from that conversation feeling more empowered than they did when they came into the conversation. I think to me, that's the difference, right? Sure, parents have to evolve to get there, especially if you're a first time parent and you ain't got but one child. I used to joke all the time. If you only got one child, don't talk to me. You ain't a parent yet. Get two and then come see me, right? Because your parenthood ain't been tested yet, especially if you don't have two right around the same age that have pitted you against the other one. And then they'll turn around and tell the other and say, I'm my mama's favorite child. Oh yeah, you ain't really no parent until you start hearing stuff like that. But the true mark of that trust that we're talking about is understanding that number one, there are boundaries. There are certain things that daddy and mama will allow, will not allow. I don't care if rain, sleet, or snow. I don't care if your feelings hurt. This ain't gonna happen, right? However, when they come to me, they come to me to have that conversation with boundaries. And then there's another thing in there that identifies the uniqueness of each child, right? I don't deal with my boys like I deal with my girls. My girls, they get the softer, nurturing side of me. My boys, especially 19 and almost 30, right? So now, the 30-year-old, he get a different side of me. He be like, "What's up, Dad? What's up, son?" You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like the conversation we have. We talk about what he's into. We talk about his music, things of that nature. My youngest son, we're just talking about life, trying to figure out what that looks like moving forward. Different types of conversations. Still both boys, right? But it's a more mature conversation there because I want to help him get what he wants. To with this one, I got to help him figure out what he's trying to get. The girls, I'm they joke when they say it, right? But they're not wrong. I'm silly putty in both of their hands. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is they want to talk about, I'm here for it. I don't care if it's a relationship. I don't care if it's trying to figure out what life looks like. I am an open door and a sponge because I'm listening and trying to view the world through their lens because I don't have that advantage. I don't have the advantage of being a woman or being a girl or whatever the case may be. So I'm listening and learning at the same time. And then instead of giving advice, I'm asking questions. I'm asking questions to learn, like, what is her experience, what she's going through. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? Those things to me is what build trust. Those are the things that make them want to come back and have those conversations to where they feel valued and heard.
Yeah, and I like that you brought that out about the friend part because I'm always that. Period. Like we can talk, and you can. If you're mad, hey, I ain't gonna stop you from being mad. Be mad, but it's a certain way you're gonna come to me. You ain't just coming. Oh, this be da 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 da. I don't talk like that. You know, I don't. That's not how we doing this. It's a certain. You talk to your friends like that. That's cool. But when you talk to me, you know, I'm gonna bring it down, and we're gonna talk because I'm trying to establish reasoning with this, not just trying to hear you vent right now.
Right.
So, you know, sometimes you got to vent to your friends, and you can come talk to me. But yeah, my kids, they know they can come talk to me about whatever, but I always got to come from dad perspective. I can't come from, oh, because if I'm coming from now we friends, and my sons come telling me something happened, friend, oh, we about to ride. No, dad ain't about to ride. Dad 50, I'm chilling. Let's see how we gonna navigate this problem.
And I think another part, and this is the big part for me, parents got to stop acting like they were Superman and Superwoman when you were coming up. Admit the mistakes you made. I ain't say tell all your business. Don't put listen, don't put the details of your business out there, but let them know that you messed some stuff up. That's what they need to hear. That builds trust as well. Just uh-oh. Chris over there having a breathing attack.
Because you said something. You said quit acting like you were Superman and Superwoman growing up. On the flip side of that, I think parents need to stop projecting how they are or what they think onto their children. They really do. This is a whole nother generation. This is a whole nother generation.
I
I don't
think,
think it's on the flip side.
How does that work though?
Right.
I'm just saying, man. And here's what I said about the whole trust thing, man. These I'm going to say, since we're talking about men, these young boys, they want to be able to go to somebody that look like them and actually talk. You understand what I'm saying? And actually be listened to. And not just dictated to based off of previous experiences that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on today in his world. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean by projection. Like a lot of that, and that's why a lot of these kids don't really trust the elders in the community, because a lot of these elders in the community would just shut them down and tell them that their experience is invalid just because the old head didn't experience it. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to I think somebody said it in the chat, man. We have to kind of meet them at their level and be open-minded about it, because how this generation is now, it's completely different to how we was coming up. So we can implement principles, but it's difficult to implement anything else as far as that in today's society. It's just way different.
Yeah,
it's just way different.
I don't see that being a flip side though. I see that being congruent, right? Because if I don't have the posture that I did everything right as a young man, then there's nothing to project. You see what I'm saying? If I'm just being completely transparent, so man, I messed that up. So, but these are the things that I learned with doing that. So take that learning and apply it to your situation, and let's see if we can create a better outcome. So I think that, and that's just me, that's how you prevent from projecting, by being transparent. And when I am transparent about the things that I did wrong, then the last thing I'm trying to do is project. The thing I'm trying to help you to understand is don't make the same mistake I did. And these are the things that I did to make those mistakes. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying though. What you got, Ro?
I'm just trying to say, I don't think things have changed that drastically that
you don't talk. Do you talk to a lot of kids? Because I do.
Yeah.
Aside from the ones that came from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm just asking because you may hear one side of it and I hear another side of it.
See, because I over a young men's group, you talking 12 to 18, and this thing, I think situations may change. The things that you did, we may have done something different back in the day. Situations may have changed, but I think we all go through life, and my experiences may be a little different than yours were. But when you come to talk, if you just coming to talk and tell me what I'm gonna tell you, then go talk on the phone to somebody else. But when you come to me to actually talk and I listen, if you don't want to heed my advice, you need to go talk to some woman that's just going to listen to you and have you sleep on her couch. Because that's how that works. Because situations may change, situations may be different, but there's no differences in how I grew up and versus how, like, I say these kids are soft, but yeah, they soft because they didn't grow up like I did because they didn't have to. No problem. But they didn't go through the same thing. They didn't do the same thing, but they doing something. And as you do something, you're gonna have an experience and a feeling with that. And so that's empathy. That's I can empathize with anybody about certain things, but I don't have to know exactly what it is. And I think all I got to do sometimes I'm just there to listen. I'm not there to give advice all the time. I can just listen and see what let that child, that young man, that young woman, let them navigate this problem because it may be some things that I'm not privy to and they aren't ready for me to be privy to. So I'm just there to listen. And it's not always about giving advice. So I agree with you there, though.
Yeah, I'm with all of that. Man, you guys are lighting it up in the chats too. I greatly appreciate that. I see a lot of the things that you guys have mentioned, we mentioned as well. I want to bring up what AES production um, had addressed because I like that. And AES Productions mentioned having a chat session. Um, and see it, it's highlighted. There we go. AES Productions mentioned a chat session. Now, I kind of like this idea, and I don't know how many. And I'm just imagining like me and my clan, right? Whenever there's, it's kind of, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm thinking of it kind of like the Cosby Show, like a family meeting, right? So we all, we all come down, in the living room and get together, and then we have a particular conversation about a thing, have everybody air their grievances about a particular thing or something of that nature. I do like that idea because at the end of the day, it's kind of you look at it, it's like strength in numbers. So if you have multiple children, they feel empowered being in the same room, talking about the same problem together. And then in the midst of that conversation, you're telling them that, hey, whatever y'all want to talk about, let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the open so we can figure out a solution to that. So I do like that idea. Um, yeah, I think pretty much everybody they kind of touched everything that we talked about as well. Nick D, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Miss Teresa Austin, welcome to the show as well. And so I kind of want to spin off of that, and I want to go down to the in the teachers and role model section. I want to grab the second question there because we started touching this a little bit. So, what specific values? Because to me, I think this is kind of like what that trust and discipline look like, right? So, what specific values and principles do you aim to instill in children and young adults that you influence, and why are these values crucial for their development? It's all right.
Oh boy. See, like I said, I don't know because I don't have any young adults and any children that I influence. I don't know. this is the part where I learn, or at least try to.
Well, imagine if you had a son right now, like brand new baby boy. What would you want that baby boy to learn from you? And even a girl. I don't want to make it gender specific.
Man, Scarface taught me my first value that I live by today. All I have is my balls and my word.
Oh, Jesus H.
And if you can't be honest about something, you shouldn't be doing it. Scarface taught me that. That's all I got. That's why I always tell people, I ain't got a lot of you. You ain't paying my mortgages. You ain't paying none of this. So me, I think when you're honest, it cuts out a lot of bull in your life. When you're honest, when you straight up. If you straight up with whomever, they can do a lot of this, but they can't say you're wrong about what you said or what you did. Because, hey, this is what it is. So I don't have to lie. I don't, I think so. That's one of the values that I learned, and I learned that from Scarface. That was 1978, something like that. But hey, that's all you got. If a person can trust you, because I rather, and one of the ways my grandma said, I'd rather have a thief around me than a liar, because with a thief I can hide my stuff. With a liar, I never know what to trust you with, what I can, trust you with. So, yeah.
So, are you talking the gangster or the rapper? I'm just curious at this point now, since you brought up
Al
Scarface.
Pacino.
Oh, okay.
Jesus H.
Let me. I'll inject one and give you more time to think,
Okay.
and then we'll come back around. I agree with the integrity piece. I would say one of the values that I would instill is complete what you start. I think a lot of times that's one that's not taught a lot. If you put your hands on it, complete it. It doesn't matter how hard it is or how long it take. Finish what you start. And then at the end of the day, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the lesson that you learned when doing so. Did you bite off more than you can chew? If you had to do it again, what would you do differently this time? Right. So if you put your hands on the thing, make sure that you complete the thing that you started.
I guess off the top of my head, I have three things. One, to Roland's point, be honest. Always be honest. And do not be afraid to offend people, because just to open your mouth means that you run the risk of offending somebody, no matter what you say or how you say it. So always be honest. And two, be righteous about your honesty, meaning this: understand that you being honest is what's good for everybody. It's not about you. And three, and I say this a lot, learn how to take a loss. Learn how to take a L, whether it's a L, a self-induced, I gotta leave this alone in order to grow type of L, or this person or this thing is going to leave me and I don't know what to do because I can't change the situation type of loss too. Learn how to deal with taking the L. Oh, and number 4, never have an ego. You're not allowed to have an ego. You cannot have an ego when you're doing something that's bigger than you. The ego can't be a part of that. So I guess that would be 4 things off the top of my head.
So since Kristen gave us 4, Roland, we'll just go one and one back and forth.
Yeah.
Kristen, let me give you all mine right now. Now you good,
Yeah.
bro. I'm joking. You good.
Hey.
What you got, Ro?
No, I was just thinking that, and another one, Bernie Mac said to Kid from Kid and Play, he said, be yourself. Be yourself. Because if people don't like you for you, you can only fake being somebody else for so long. Always be yourself. If like I tell people, I'm not the person, I think I'm a cool guy, but I'm kind of corny. I'm cool with being corny. I'm comfortable with me. If somebody don't like it, do it over there. I don't mind, because when you have problems with yourself, it shows in how you deal with not just yourself but other people. So now I gotta fake over here and fake over there. No, I can just be myself everywhere I go. And if I don't fit in or blend in, I'm still comfortable. because I'm myself. And if people don't like it, that's their loss from trying to make everybody fit into a mold.
Now, this is where, and I promise you, I didn't decide this when you was talking. This is what I had in my head before you started talking. But it's going to sound totally opposite of what you just said, right?
Mhm.
Don't be so fixed on who you think you are right now, because just give time, and you'll realize that you're not the person that you thought you were.
Oh,
So be open to learning who you are, right? I promise you that's exactly what I was thinking. Be open to learning, because and this is one of the main reasons why I think that a lot of times we stay stuck in this facade of who I think I am, right? And yeah, you got it, Uncle Junior. Give time. That was going to be my third one. Um, see, a lot of time we stay stuck in this facade of who I think I am, just to realize that, well, I hate to say it, unfortunately, that is a thing of arrogance, right? Because who I am right now is only based upon my awareness of who I am. That's not really who I am, right? So I'm constantly in the space of learning. So be open to learning more about yourself, but don't be so quick to tell somebody that this is who I am, because you don't know. And that's one of the biggest lessons that you'll have to learn later. And it's an unfortunate thing, because some people believe that, well, don't let nobody tell you who you are. Well, that's wrong. That everybody has blind spots. So if somebody tell you something about you, you might want to consider it, as opposed to rejecting it immediately. So be open to learning who you are. My bad, Ro. I tell you, man, it
oh.
wasn't. It wasn't.
And I don't think that's different. I think because who we were back in 90, not 90, 2003, 2004,
Mhm.
that's not who we are today.
Correct.
But we had to be comfortable in ourselves where we can say, okay, this is where I am now. This is who, but we're ever learning and ever growing, like you said. So I agree with
Absolutely. And I'm gonna inject one more because Uncle Junior put it out there, so I got to say it. It was one of the lessons I learned from my grandmother. It is phenomenal, and I've been using it ever since I came to the conclusion of what it really means. Give time. Sometimes we're so quick to get to the finish line. Sometimes we're so anxious to see the finished result. It's not necessarily realize the missing ingredient of that thing is time. Time will reveal a lot of things to you, that you really can't see or understand right now. And it took me some years to understand what that really means. And so that's it. That would be my point. The last one I would teach was give time. So all great points. So we got some highlighted points up here. Look like my man AT is in the building. Unk with the funk. One principle would be to continue to learn and apply what you learn. Absolutely. Knowledge means absolutely nothing without application. What's up,
Shout
AD?
out
Good
to
to
Adrian,
I
man.
know, right? What's up,
Shout
brother?
out
Good to
to
see you.
Adrian, bro.
To my son, one of the many things I can teach, but one of the most important things, play a man's game, pay a man's price. I like that. Man, I like that. Also, the older you get, the more costly your mistakes would be. Facts. Big facts. Absolutely. All great points, but I appreciate that. Let me see. I see some other great points in here. Miss Teresa Austin says honesty, accountability, and respect. Absolutely. I like that. I like that as well. I would say one thing before accountability must be responsibility. If we don't teach responsibility as a precursor to accountability, then accountability looks different. So definitely that. Let me see. I think we kind of touched most of them. For you guys, listen, we appreciate you guys. Keep putting them in there because we're seeing you, and definitely want to make sure that we're bringing your points of consideration to the table. Um, so let's jump into the caregiver piece, right? So category number 3. And the first point or question that I want to ask you, gentlemen, because we're getting close to the hour mark here, is let me see. What do you believe? Is that question there? What do you believe are the unique strengths and qualities that men bring in the roles of caregivers? Is that there? Nope, it's not. All right, don't worry about it. I got it. Had a little technical difficulties. I apologize, but I can fix that. And I can't spell. Judgment, man. No judgment. Don't judge me.
I totally am not.
All right, there it is. Okay. So, what do you believe are the unique strengths? There it is. What do you believe are the unique strengths and qualities that men bring to the roles of caregivers and nurturers? Now, this is kind of like more so of the maturity sets in and things of that nature.
Again, I don't know. I've never seen any of this stuff. I don't know.
That's all
All
right,
I have
brother.
all I have is stats, and all I have are numbers coming from working within the system. You understand
Imagine
what
it.
I'm saying?
Imagine near it. What would you want? Let's turn back the hands of time. Young Chris, right? Young Chris, teenage Chris, 15, 16 years old, right? And let's say you had that man in your life. What would you want that man to look like as a nurturer or caregiver in your life?
I said it earlier. Somebody that I can come and talk to without any judgment and actually be able to talk without what I'm saying being viewed as disrespectful. That's it. Listen, man, it- I'm a bottom line kind of dude. That's all these kids want. These kids want to be able to say, "Hey, pop, I don't like the way you treat me," or "Hey, mom, I don't like the way you're doing this. This isn't helping me." You understand what I'm saying? And it not be viewed as, "Oh my God, I'm such a bad parent." No, you're just doing this one thing that's kind of screwing me up, but you got everything else right. So how about we fix this so that way I can move forward? You understand what I'm saying? That's really all these kids want. They need an emotional outlet. They do. They need an emotional outlet. And I'm not saying to I'm not saying that they're gonna be boohooing and crying and all of that stuff that all of that stuff that will put them in the "I'm a sensitive dude" box that they like to shame us with. It's more along the lines of, "Hey, I need somebody to talk to. Can I come talk to you? And can I talk to you about what you're doing and it not be viewed as disrespectful? Even if my tone might be disrespectful, what I'm saying really isn't. I got feelings too." You understand what I'm saying? That's all they want.
Hmm. I think when it comes to young people or whomever it is, whether it's friends, it don't even have to be young people. A strength would be being consistent and allowing them to know that you're there. Like when somebody know that you're there for them when you don't even want nothing. Like some people, like I had coaches growing up. So some coaches were there when you can play. Oh, they on your phone. They want you there. But when you hurt for a while, it's like, okay, I can't get nothing out of this kid, so I ain't checking on them. But I just, knowing that you're there. I mean, because that shows me that you care for me more than what I can do, what I'm more valuable than just whether I can hit a ball, catch a ball, or something like that.
I like all of that. I think for me, I think the answer to this question um, would sound more like partnering with your child. It's not so much as like you go tell them to do something. It's like we are going to go do it together. Because I think what most, especially young men, right? Young men feel like when you complete a thing, it's a sense of accomplishment. But if you're doing the thing with your dad, right, and your dad is right there with you, and you guys are doing it side by side, it's not only a sense of accomplishment, but it's also a sense of partnership. There's a bond that really happens in the moment of whatever that hard work looks like. Whether you're in the back and you're, chopping wood, or whether you're working on a car, or whether you're cutting the grass together, like he's cutting the grass and you trimming the hedges, or vice versa. Like whatever it is you're doing, if you're doing it together, there is a sense of accomplishment and pride and bonding that happens in doing so. And I can tell you, like for me, when I was younger, I remember we would go to the YMCA with my uncle, right? My uncle come pick us up every Saturday. He'll come pick me up every Saturday, and me, him, and my cousin would go to YMCA, and so we'll play ball, whatever that looks like. But then afterwards, we'll go to Burger King. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a celebration that we had after the hard work and sweating and all that stuff together. And it was cool because every now and then I get some playtime with the fellas, right? So you got, here it is, you got 40, 30, grown men between the ages of 30 and 50 years old. And here it is, I'm a teenager. And so I get some time on the court. So, I'm about 5'8", so I ain't gonna get long on the court. It ain't gonna be long if I'm off the court, but I'm on the court, right? But when it's over with, it's like we're going to BK. And it seemed like it's a small thing now, you know what I'm saying? But it was a big thing for me because it was kind of like some bonding and camaraderie that went on. And of course, we'll be talking about some of the things in the game or whatever that looks like. Fast forward, Roland brought up the whole concept of coach. Well, that's one of the reasons why I coach whoever that coach is in that child's life. It kind of helped. You have a natural bond there because you're out there sweating. Coach out there with you. He pushing you hard, but he's out there with you. And then every now and then you'll get those conversations, those pep talks, those uplifting, those pat on the back, attaboy, keep at it. Don't quit. I see you working hard. You're doing good. Come see me after practice. I want to talk to you about something. So it's like those things. And those conversations, believe it or not, is value added because you're seeing me sweat. You're seeing me struggling. You're seeing me in some of my what we consider vulnerable moments. But then you are having that faith for me that in the midst of the struggle, I'm not even having for myself. So I think that's the thing. Like when we get out there and we do it with the child, when we get out there and try to help them through the struggle, to try to overcome some of the negative self-talk that they may be having, then they realize that, you know what, they're actually here for me. They're trying to help me. And then that kind of develops that relationship that goes way into their adult years. So I think that's, one point for me.
Can I speak from the other end?
Sure.
These kids want their parents to be honest too. Be straight up. Because if you honest with them, they're going to be honest with you. That's what I mean by trust. If I come to you and ask you a question, I want you to tell me the truth. I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want any of that. Tell me the truth. Now, if it's something a little too deep that I'm not meant to understand, then that's okay to omit. But the base core level of it, these kids want you to be honest with them just like you want them to be honest with you. That's really how you build a bridge. Hey, Pop, how come? Why do you always do this? Well, I gotta do this because if I don't do this, everything else crumbles. I apologize that I can't be around like you really, really want me to, but I gotta work these 12-hour days. I gotta work these 10-hour days in order to keep a roof over your head. I gotta keep this business going because this business is everything, and this business keeps a roof over your head. I have a level of responsibility for you. These kids want to be like, hey, Mom, I need you to quit coddling me, or I need you to actually let me fail, or I need you to get out of the way because this is something that I really want to do. And I need your help. I don't need your hindrance. And please do not project the fact that you can't see yourself doing it onto me. These kids want their parents to be honest. That's what I meant by projection. You understand what I'm saying? Like a lot of these parents project how they used to be onto their kids and onto the kids that are in their kids' lives. Like this generation isn't completely different. Like a lot of these kids are smarter than what y'all give them credit for. And a lot of us that are of age are starting to unlearn the lessons that we were taught so that way we can teach the younger ones better. These kids just want honesty, man. Just be straight up and let them have a temper tantrum. Their temper tantrum ain't disrespectful. As long as they ain't breaking nothing in the house, let them get them emotions out. Because if they don't, it's going to manifest someplace else. And then I'm going to see them we have this magazine in our city called Buckeye Behind Bars, where they take pictures of everybody that's booked and put it in a magazine and tell you what they booked for. I don't want my kid on one of those. You understand what I'm saying? I don't. Come talk to me. You can trust me. Yes, like I said earlier, yes, I might snatch you up because what you did was stupid and I see more in you than the stupidity that you're doing. I may snatch you up. I may get angry, but I would rather you come talk to me than me having to go, you know what I'm saying? Than me having to do some extreme stuff because some extreme stuff happened because you felt like you couldn't talk to me. Be honest, man. Because I've learned this from the men that are married that actually have sons. They sons go to them with everything. Everything. and then they just deal with it. That's really what they want.
I was waiting on Roland to say something about Buckeyes behind bars because
Listen, man, it's oh, I forgot about Saturday. Double meaning. Okay, I get it.
right.
Never
Yeah,
mind.
that's why I was waiting on him. And I know. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna speak on the. We need to teach young boys early on that it's okay to have emotions, but you have to maintain your composure. You have to maintain yourself, and it's not about if you got to cry, cry. I have zero problem with that. I'm not calling any boys no little whatever words or anything like that, or demeaning you because you feel, because we all feel. And I think that's where the generations that taught us went wrong. We were bashed for having feelings. We were told we couldn't cry. But I think when we teach it's okay to cry, but after you cry, you got to get up. You got to hold your head up. You got to look a man in his eyes. Don't all that slouching and stuff. No, you talk to me when you talk to me, because I think how you carry yourself has a lot to do with how you feel about yourself. So I love that honesty part because I'm going to be nothing but honest. I think that sometimes as a parent, you also have to say, you ain't ready for that. Or I'm not ready to divulge that because that may be a hurtful part of my past. So
That's
what?
why I said earlier that it's okay to it's okay to not tell everything, but at
Right,
least get to the core. You understand what I'm
right.
saying? Because to keep it real, some of the stuff that was like some of the stuff that happened between my mom and whoever she was dealing with, that's just not my business. I shouldn't even want to know that because that's not my business.
Mhm.
But I want to know, okay, how did all of that get me here? You understand what I'm saying? You ain't got to tell me about what happened over there because I don't care. But what from that caused this? You understand what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying, Roland.
Yeah, because like me, I learned that I was born in September. My parents got married in July. So it's like, whoa. So now I had to ask questions like, how'd that work out? What happened? Was it a shotgun wedding or something? Yeah, so those were just questions. But then I have siblings that may ask other questions because of pains that they have in them. And I think that they're owed that, but I know as my parents are concerned, may not be ready in themselves to give that. So it's a timing thing, and I think that's all a building and a tearing down those things to help develop and build within.
See, that's what I see it differently. I'm sorry. Whatever happened between me and your mama, that was
No,
us.
I'm not talking about.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about
Exactly.
the me and your mama
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Gotcha.
No, no, no. I'm
No, but what I'm saying is, okay, what happened between you and mama ain't my business. But how did that get me here? I'm allowed to ask that question because that
Sure.
question is about me. I don't care nothing about that. What happened between you and him, that's between you and him. You understand what I'm saying? But I need to figure this out so that way I don't repeat this cycle because this is definitely not happening again.
And what I would say to that, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but what I would say to that is that we need to recognize that that's the degree of trauma that a child is going to deal with as well. So you can't be so callous to where you don't recognize that. It's not that, and most dads, we're the one that end up leaving the house, right? We can't think that we exist in a bubble. Say, I left your mama, I didn't leave you. No, the child see it as you leaving them as well. So you got to be open and honest. Say, look, you got to literally say that. Like, me and your mama didn't work out, but I never left you. I am here. You can call me anytime you want to. I'll be around as often as I possibly can. Like, they need to understand that. But once they get to the point that they become inquisitive about the specifics of the relationship, I will not divulge that information because I'm not going to ask the specifics of your relationship when you and Tyrone or you and Tamika didn't make it. You see what I'm saying? I'm just going to ask you, are you okay? What did you learn from that? So forth and so on. So I think there has to be a degree of transparency that exists to where that child understands that, it was not a breakup. I did not leave because of you. This is not your fault. You had absolutely nothing to do with that. I'm not going to demonize mom at the same time. And hopefully she has that same posture as well. And then the end state is that both of us love the child dearly. That's the thing that for me, I think works. Because now the child doesn't carry a whole bunch of guilt thinking that they're the reason why mom and daddy didn't work out. So that's just my point of view from there. Man, they're loading up the chat. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let me see. I want to grab one more before we kind of hit our final thoughts. Um, so this last question is all about society's expectation. Again, I got it. I want to touch on it real quick because you got to realize, like, we are older men, but there are younger men who's out there. They're dealing with this stuff, and they're influenced by the ebbs and flow of this information. So, in what ways do you think society's changing expectations of caregivers and nurturers affect the role of men in the family? I already know what most of the answers are, but go ahead and just give it.
I don't know. I truly don't.
But you hear what the white noise is out in the streets. That's what I'm saying.
Well, if I'm speaking from that aspect, then the expectation is there is no expectation. If you want me to be real, there isn't one. According to what society says and what mainstream says, we don't take care of our kids. We're not in the home. We don't pay child support. We're all of these things. And women can do it all by themselves. If I'm looking at it from where we are right now, like in today's society, based off of the research and the fact that I've worked in the system, I'm starting to see that even though the expectation may have changed, the responsibility of the role still stays the same. So I've seen that, but I don't know. And to be honest, and this is the part of the game where I'm completely and totally accountable. I'm a little jaded because I've worked in the system and I've seen how the system works. So I kind of don't want to answer this question because I'm not a dad, and I would be basing it just specifically off of the numbers and the files and the mediations that I've attended. So I don't know.
Yeah, society. I think society going crazy. Uh, when and there's certain things that I don't like, and it's not for me. But that's everybody else. Everybody else can do what they want to do. But as a man, I got to work. My hands got to be on something. I have to earn. I have to feed. This is just me. Whereas some people would say, okay, well, you gonna sit home, and it works for some people. It's not for me. So, and that's a societal change. Society is changing to where you have the male is the person that stays home while the female is the breadwinner. If that work in your house, happy for you. Not, it's not for me. But I think as a man, I always teach you always want your own. You because I see too many of my relatives living off of some female on Section 8 and trying and they looking like, oh, this is a come up. Nah, because if you're trying to do that, how can you elevate that person? I think each person has to look and see how can we elevate as a couple. And I can't do that while I'm just taking from. if I'm not ever giving. I'm not in the giving posture. So I look at it like, as a man, we have to teach men that you stand on your own. You take care of your family. If whatever happens and mine come in and say, hey, I ain't working no more. Okay, oh, you going out of here tomorrow? No, I can't do that, because it's, if I'm big and bold enough to say it's my house, that means I can take care of everything under this roof. You, whatever you bring is gravy. That's on you. I don't need that. That's just me. So the expectations of a caregiver, I got to be able to provide certain things. So when it comes to children, I don't have any little children, but when I did, I was taught this, and I agree with it, that if the lights aren't on, it's my fault. If they not on for them to read, write, and all that other stuff. If they don't have something here because they aren't doing schoolwork enough, that was mama fault. But then that's not all mama fault to me, because I did the schoolwork, I did the hospital visit, take them to the appointments and things like that. So some things they cross over, but I think as far as society is going today, it's trying to make men weak. It's trying to make men appear weak. I say it like that.
Yes, I agree. Um, I want to kind of set the conditions by bringing up Lisa Key's comment first, and then afterwards, I want to follow up by Adrian. Because one of the things that I do recall as a young boy, young teenager, is the effect that my grandfather had on our house. And he was that person. Like, at a certain point in time, he only had one leg. He was an amputee, but it didn't matter. What did matter is not only was he present, but he was a force in the house, not a violent force. That's not what I'm saying, but you felt his presence. I think for me, that was one of the things that really made sense, because I thought it was an honor just to go sit down beside him and watch Perry Mason. I didn't even like Perry Mason. I just like hanging out with my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't matter what he watched. And he only really watched two things: Perry Mason and Atlanta Braves baseball. And I don't care what you thought you was watching on TV. If Perry Mason was on and Atlanta Braves on, either you watching TV with him or you going outside. And I think for me, that's what it looked like. And in the midst of those times that I spent with him, there would be little micro conversations that we would have. And in those conversations, I learned so much as a young boy from that senior man. And I think it starts here. This is one of the things that I think society is trying to kill. They're trying to kill the notion of that father, that senior male, right, being a focal point of the family, being and go to Adrian's comment, please, being a focal point of the family and being that gentle strength, not ruling with an iron fist, but just know that his presence is in the house. That presence does not devalue anybody in that house. It doesn't. It's not aggressive. It can be aggressive only to protect what's in the house. But it's one of those things that I think that we need to understand, that in the space of growth and development, we need to understand something. A lot of us now are coming to an understanding in our older age of what men are supposed to be, what men are supposed to do, not just to the children, but to the family as a whole, as a nucleus. Well, we need to understand that if we're learning that, then we need to help the younger generation learn that earlier, right? So we're teaching that stuff. We're talking about those things and having those conversations. Why? Because just like our generation did in the younger day, in our earlier days, they're telling a they're telling a woman what they're supposed to do. And for me, I was very adamant. I was not going to be defined by the provide and protect narrative. That wasn't going to be me. And so you can have in your mind who you think I'm supposed to be all you want to, but I'll be the one to ask you, what are you measuring that against? Because if you don't have a good measuring stick to measure that against for me, and you can't articulate it to me, then this conversation is over real quick. So that's kind of like where I want to leave it off with, because we're getting close to that time, and it kind of moves us into our bittersweet moment where we have our final thoughts. Again, thank you to everybody for the value that you're adding. Go ahead, brother. What you got?
Absolutely nothing. I told you, man. I told you. I like I said, man, I don't want to be jaded in my answer because I have too much information on the other side of this. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't want to be mechanical with it because I know I wouldn't, seeing what I've seen, knowing what I know, I would be nothing like that when simply because I know the consequences. You understand what I'm saying? So I would rather just stay quiet with that one.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Not a problem. So that takes us into our final thoughts. And the first person you will hear from is my brother, Roland Walker.
Growing up, uh, my grandmother was the disciplinarian and didn't have, you know, too many father figures. And when I grew up and I had my children and then I had grandchildren, my daughters, well, one of my daughters, especially, she would try to make me the disciplinarian for her children. So I had to tell her, no, I'm not the disciplinarian. I enforce the discipline that you already established in your house. So as a grandparent, it's not just discipline. You come to me to lay down the law. No, you should already have laws established, and then I just come enhance and enforce whatever laws you already have. So it's not just mean grandpa thing. Not I don't mind being looked at as mean, but I'm trying to parent you and grandparent them, and it's at we're at different levels. So when we're looking at evolving roles, my role as a grandfather is different than my role as a parent. And as a parent now, I'm parenting uh, uh, older children. My kids are grown, so they need different things from me. But for the younger children, they have I'm. It's easier for them to talk to me because I listen now. Whereas their parents may be ready to blow up at everything. And I'm at a patient point where I can listen now and let them talk and not just overtalk them and allow them that space to be heard. And I think that's what they need now. They need that space to be heard while at the same time knowing their place. You're always child, I'm always parent in this role, no matter what, so that my voice has a certain weight to it and a certain value. So I'm not just speaking to be speaking. When I have something to say, it's of value. And that's where we need to be as parents. We need to speak when it's something valuable to say so that we won't just be running our mouths or saying what our grandparents or parents said, but we're listening and guiding as we see needs to be navigated through these crazy times that we're in.
I believe um, one of the biggest mistakes. I'm ready for my close up, Mr. Demir. Um, I believe one of the biggest mistakes that we make um, is we take a look at our parents, whether it's our father, whether it's our mother, right? And we take what we see and we automatically pin that on the person that we're with, not recognizing the actual um, variance in the age and maturity. So we'll see who our father is, and then we'll take our father at the age of 45, 50, 60, 70 years old and say, well, that's who you're supposed to be at the age of 22 and 23. No, that's not even feasible. It's not even logical. Your father, when he was 18, 23, he wasn't the person that he is right now. And so, what we have to understand, going back to the concept of giving time, what we have to understand is that each person should be given the opportunity to grow and mature. In fact, you should grow and mature together if you're trying to be with somebody at a very young age. My recommendation these days is that, hey, what you need to do is grow and mature before you go and infect somebody and mess up their life. That's what we need to look at. In the evolution of man, what we have to realize is that men, right, the male figure, once he matures, then his whole desire, his whole goal, his whole journey is to kind of help uplift and give back. He wants to see his children thrive. He wants to see his children successful. He will move heaven and earth to make them more successful than he is. At least, and I can only speak for the men that I know, right? I know it. I'm not speaking in generalities. I want to go back. It's not absolutism, right? But the men that I know, they really want to see their children thrive. They really want to see their children successful. If they're married, they want to see their relationship successful. And they are the types that are not talking about lifestyle or life from the perspective of them being perfect. They're talking about it from the perspective of, look, I want you guys to be better than me. I want you to learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make them. And I think that's kind of like what it looks like. It's sacrificing themselves for the greater good of everybody else. That's what men do, especially when we get older, right? If you are a man, your goal should be to mature. That's just it. Even if you're a young man, right? You got a panel of brothers here, and it's our desire to help you. We got a panel of people over on the Total Mindset Shift platform, and all we do is speak positivity, speak life into one another. You should surround yourself with people like that. Surround yourself with men who want to uplift you, who want to feed into you, who want to give you the things that you do. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you don't have men in your home that can help you, that's okay. You got too many outlets right now. And again, we're actually offering to be a resource for that. So, that being said, we just want to thank you for being a part of today's show. We just want to thank everybody for being here. We want to thank everybody for what the information you guys are putting in the chat. Adrian, we appreciate that. Lisa Keys, we appreciate that, and everybody who found this conversation to be valued. Again, it is just our desire to just continue to uplift and build a strong community of like-minded individuals. So if you're interested in that, again, go to www.totalmindsetshift.com, join a community where we continue these conversations throughout the week leading up to next Friday. So that being said, again, on behalf of the brothers that are with us tonight and the brothers that are traveling, again, to my brother, Uncle Junior and Mrs. Uncle Junior, y'all be safe coming back home. Brother Gaddy, be safe out there as well. And if you're still traveling, be safe traveling home. If you're traveling home on Sunday, traffic's going to be hectic. Just be careful out there. And until we see you guys next week, same time, same channel on the Hearts of Men podcast hosted by the community.